All right, we are on air. We ran a little late in our executive session, so we're just going to give it a minute to give everyone the time to come into the room from the hallway, or another 30 seconds or so. All right. I'll go ahead and read the preamble. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live over the Lunenburg Public Access channel, on Facebook Live on the Public Access Facebook page, and will be uploaded to the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel after the meeting. The agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. We will do the Pledge of Allegiance, so please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're going to begin this evening with public comments. Do we have any public comments this evening from the board?
Only because I wasn't here at the last meeting, I want to welcome Amanda Moore to the Select Board officially.
Thank you.
Good to have you aboard. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you as well.
Thank you.
All right, I'll make a public comment. Briefly, I have been the chair for this board for the last 2 years. Tonight, as the first order of business, we will be reorganizing. I am not seeking to be an officer of this board and hope to enjoy my last year in public service and support and coaching and passing off projects to other members with a little bit more tenure than what I have remaining. So I just want to thank the public for their support. Certainly, all things come with challenges, and this has been a challenging one. I thank the town manager as well for her work with me. I haven't always been easy to get along with, and so I want to just thank the public again and my colleagues on the board. Any other public comments from the board? All right, any public comments from the public this evening? Just make sure you say that at the microphone, please.
Burton, 39 Cortlandt Circle. Amanda, it's great to see you aboard, and my girls, I have 3 daughters, so they're very big fans, and we're very big supporters, so stay strong. And
thank you very much.
Girl.
Thank you.
Mr. Jeffries, last time I was here, I asked you about an attorney firm that you may use. I have found out, are you familiar with a name called Ryan Severance? No, you told us 3 times that you were no involvement with that firm. I was told by Ryan, who works at that firm, that he handles your books for your basically for your property management company. It's very interesting that Mr. Gamel actually had conversations with our attorneys that we had for 20 years in our HOA. We found out recently, and then we feel that you and some of the town officials have diverted our homeowners association, our trustees, to this attorney to come at us and get us out of town. Honestly, $20,000, $21,000 of fines doesn't even make sense to anybody. Amanda, you probably know some of this from when I've called the police stations and so forth, and you were very kind to take some of those calls. But you know, my family was very much attacked. We feel it was a situation that we wanted to get out of town because we raised some concerns with the police that had come to our private property and called me out of the woods. That we've had Leominster residents that sat down there and said, "You can stay." Didn't make any sense to us. We called you, Mr. Jeffries. I talked to you. You turned 180 degrees on me. 180 degrees. You told me to go to the chief to go to make a complaint with a resident. I did so. I copied you on that email. You then turned it around and called me batshit crazy. Now we're a year and a half later, and here we are, still in the situation that no one wanted to do anything, that we got a neighbor that's harassing me and my family, calling us a piece of shit, calling my wife an asshole, goes on. And the police here did nothing about it except for try to take us to harassment prevention orders that Mr. Gamel had actually supported, very much supported, and gave the neighbor a criminal complaint before I was even here, before I was even served. He gave that to our neighbor. Does that even sound correct? And none of this sounds even possibly correct. And you just sit here and stare at me and you tell me that you don't lie. You told me that. You told me that. Many people have told you lie. My ears should have triggered right then and there when someone says they don't care if someone calls them a liar. Because you've certainly lied to us. And my wife and I both know it. We know what's going on, and we're going to trace it down. I just want to let the board know what's going on here, and if any of you can do anything to help out, we'd greatly appreciate it. Mr. Alonso, today, you've been here, 17, 18 years? Today, I ask a question, and you refer me back to a clerk. Unprofessional, improper, incorrect. I asked you for the executive meetings, the meeting minutes. That's a board, I've asked the board for that. You need to reply and not give it back to a clerk. I did not ask for a public records request. I asked it from the governing board directly. So you do have an authority to provide that document to me. And I'm looking forward to that. And so I just want to, it's kind of surprising to me, you being here for 18 years, don't even know the proper things to come back to a resident and tell them. I don't understand it. A lot of this stuff is what's going on here. I'd love to volunteer in this town, but I would never, never, ever volunteer here because of what the dirty little tricks that go on. And Amanda, that's why I thank you to try to stay up, and that's why I said stay strong. Stay strong if you get pushed back. But there's a lot of stuff going on here, and I'd love some of you to dig into it. But there's a lot of stuff, Mr. Jeffries, and you know it as well as I did what that attack was in 22 of November of 22 when I came and talked to you. You turned around 180 degrees, attacked my family. It's a disgusting story. It's a disgusting, absolutely disgusting story what went on here, how much money has been spent by the town, the state level, and the federal level. The state has told the town 4 times to give a videotape from the library to prove a point that a guy is harassing me. The town has come back 4 times and told them no. The state said, yes, 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 give it to him. Finally, the town got through by saying, there's children in the library. Okay, I got a piece of a library clip before. Why wasn't that brought up before? Other residents in town have gotten clips from the library. Why wasn't that brought up? It was prevented from me to be able to prove that I was getting harassed by a resident in town that was supposedly lying on a 911 call. He lied on a 911 call. No one did anything about that. Why? Why do you have a resident lie to on a 911 call about another resident and you do nothing about it? Why? You're protecting this individual, and we know it. We know you're protecting them, and it needs to stop. And I'm going to leave it at that, and I'll be down more to talk again January 9th. Remember that meeting, Mr. Jeffries, Mr. Franco as well, and you, all of you were somewhat involved, except for Amanda. But January 9th, we felt we were very much persecuted. Yes, you did invite us to the meeting, but we denied coming. And we weren't there. So that was kind of persecution, Mr. Jeffries, of what you set up in that meeting to try to get us out of town and make us look like a piece of crap.
Thank you, Mr. Burden, for your comment. I will respond to 2 things. Prior to being on this board, my business, which is Jeffries Property Management, I was making about $150,000 a year from it, roughly. And 5 years ago, when I became a member of this board, I stopped taking customers from Lunenburg. For the last 3 years, my business has made about $15,000 a year. I do my own books, and I'm not aware of any lawyer you've ever mentioned here before. And as I've said to you a couple of times, I have absolutely no association with an attorney that you mentioned here this evening, and I don't know much about your personal situation. And you are correct that you and I did speak. And after trying to work with you and trying to explain that the concerns that you have with your condo association are civil in nature and that you should talk to a civil attorney about them, that was kind of where we left off. Are there any other public comments this evening from the public? Any other public comments this evening from the public? All right, first order of business, reorganization. So this should have happened at our last meeting, but we did not have all members in attendance. So this is when, following an election, the board selected its officers of chair, vice chair, and clerk. So we're going to start with chair. Are there any nominations for chair this evening?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Cesar Nizzolo for chair.
All right, I will second that. With the way that this goes is we typically will open the floor to nominations, all nominations for a position. There may be some conversation, then we'll take them. I would like to nominate Tom Alonso to be chair of the board.
Second.
All right, let's have a discussion on both of these points. So to the members, are both of you interested in being chair?
Sure.
I will be the first to admit that I still have a lot to learn, but yes, I will accept the nomination.
Okay. Either of you would, before we go to a vote, either of you like to express why you're interested in being chair of the board?
Sure. Like I said, I still have a lot to learn, but I think that can be a strength and not necessarily a weakness, because it means that I will constantly look for feedback. I will listen, I will care what people have to say, both on the board and the public, and I will implement the feedback that I receive. If I'm chair, I'll be a collaborative leader. I'll still view myself as one of 5 of the members. I won't impose an agenda or opinions on the board, and I'll continue to be an independent, fair, and impartial as I consider everything that comes before us. I think the board is at a bit of a crossroads right now, because we are moving away from mostly being comprised of long-term members with a lot of experience, and our 2 most senior members are up for re-election or not running again next year. So we will be moving to a board where 4, potentially 5 of the members have under 1 term of experience. So I think it's actually critical for continuity of government for the board to allow one of the more junior members to step up and serve as chair now, while 2 of the most senior members are still on board. I'm dedicated to this role. It's incredibly stressful a lot of the time, but I enjoy doing this work. I'm able and willing to step up, so I'll accept the nomination if you guys are willing to support it, and if not, that's okay as well.
So I've been on the board for 18 of the last 20 years. I've served as chair for, I don't know, 5 or 6. I don't know how many years I've served as chair. For that time, I know the town well, I know the job well, and if the board chooses to have somebody experienced in the role at this time, that's fine. If they do not, that is also fine.
All right, any discussion on this?
I'll only add that, I think that, Tom, you've done great work here, and I would support either one. I think coming on as a new member and having some fresh blood, I think wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing.
I think Tom's experience is going to be incredibly important the coming year. We're coming off of 2 very tumultuous years, and I don't think it's going to be a smooth road for the next year. And I think having experience at the helm is incredibly critical heading into next year. And I appreciate, Caesar, your dedication and your willingness to step into the role. Unfortunately, to no fault of your own, you were away for 5 months, and it was I know you dialed into several meetings, but being here during that budget season was an experience. And so I feel more comfortable having more experience in the chair position, especially this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think I came into tonight fully expecting that Mr. Alonso would be our next chair. And, I think that I think experience on this board is very important. I think that being in leadership roles in our community is always challenging. But I think, Caesar, what you said is a bit persuasive in the sense of, I don't know if I fully grasped the fact that, I made no secret that I'm coming off the board at the end of this term, and that does put the board in the unique position of having 4 or potentially 5 members that are on their first term. I think that coaching would be helpful. All right, let's call for the vote. So we have a nomination and a second for Mr. Alonso, for Mr. Nuzzolo. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no.
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 All right, Caesar has become chair.
So just for the record, Mr. Chair, you nominated me and then didn't vote for me? Like, what was exactly the point of that exercise?
Oh, I think I expected, Tom, I think that I expected you to be the chair. I think that what Caesar just said to me was...
Yes, I heard it. It was persuasive.
That was persuasive. But I was expecting to make the nomination, and I wasn't expecting necessarily a second nomination. Do we have a nomination for vice chair?
I nominate Tom Alonso.
I refuse the nomination.
Well, Selectman Alonso, I like and respect you a tremendous amount, and I genuinely do value your experience, and I think you have an important role to play now as vice chair, and I would ask you to be a team player and please accept the nomination.
And I refuse the nomination.
Is there another nomination for vice chair?
I will nominate Selectman Emke.
I also refuse.
All right. Well, I don't think it would be fair to ask the newest member to be vice chair. I wouldn't have wanted that right when I got on the board. So I will nominate Selectman Jeffries.
Is there a second?
Second.
I would not like to be vice chair. I've been clear that I'm not interested in being the chair or the vice chair or the clerk. However, I will do my duty to our community, and I will accept the nomination. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
Abstain.
Clerk, do we have a nomination for clerk? I will nominate Selectman Imke for clerk. Are you not interested in that either?
Yeah, I think I'll pass.
I'll nominate Amanda Moore for clerk.
Second. Amanda, will you accept the nomination for clerk?
Yes.
Any additional discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no.
I'll abstain.
Any abstentions? All right. I would like to do musical chairs here and pass off the rest of the meeting to our new chair. Against him and I are switching seats. Let's switch chairs.
We all have to move? My spot. I kind of like that spot.
If you want the spot, take the spot.
No, I like this chair though.
Would you like to chair the spot?
I don't like the tall chair.
Did you take your name tag?
No, I didn't take a name tag. I want to switch name tags.
All right. Well, that was uncomfortable, I'll admit it, but I'm hoping that I can work well with you guys and earn your support. All right. Let's move on with the agenda. Are there any announcements this evening?
I'll wait till later in the agenda so you can proceed with the long past due hearings.
All right. Are there any communications from other boards?
I'll hit that later in the agenda.
All right. So, moving on to appointments. Up first, we have the 7:10 p.m. hearing to discuss and review the restaurant all-alcohol license for La Balena, doing business as The Reboot, located at 50 Massachusetts Avenue. So, first, I will go over the procedure before we open the public hearing.
Are we joined this evening by Attorney Costa, Mr. Chair?
Attorney Costa was not able to make it for tonight. That was sent out prior to the meeting.
All right. So this will be an official hearing. Everyone testifying must be sworn in. The order of proceedings is as follows. I will swear in anyone who will be testifying. The town will first present testimony. The license holder or any representatives of the license holder will present testimony. The board will ask questions, will deliberate, will make a finding, and then we may or may not determine penalty. So the possible findings of this are pretty straightforward. 1, violation has occurred or no violation has occurred. So if I can, I will ask the clerk to now read the hearing notice.
Sure, I just need to pull it up. And I can't find it in the drive.
Okay, I'll read it.
What is it titled? Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Under its public hearing on revocation of liquor license for Reboot.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting to be
I
quick or
understand.
have to read this. If you have it up, if you want to read it.
Okay. I actually don't see it in here now.
I don't see it either.
All right. Pretty sure there was one, but now I don't see it. So,
Do you see it?
town manager, do you have it available?
I'm looking. That's maxing out. You can also look on your website.
Okay. Do we need to read it? No. All right, so we will just open the public hearing at 7:44 p.m. Who here intends on testifying? Is there anyone from the Sewer Commission? Okay. Is anyone here from La Bellena that intends on testifying tonight?
John Reynolds, 91 Lancaster Ave, the sewer commissioner, chairman of the sewer commission. I actually wasn't expecting to participate in this tonight. I thought it would be Reboot that would be here, trying to maybe perhaps explain why they haven't been paying their sewer bill. But basically, they signed an agreement with the Sewer Commission back in December, and a payment schedule was set up for weekly payments until they got caught up. And it was going to be required that any new sewer bills would be paid on time. They did make some payments in January and a couple in February, then stopped. One check was paid, one payment was made. There were insufficient funds. The Sewer Commission met on the beginning of April, I think it was our April 9th meeting, to discuss what to do. And we wanted to hold them to the agreement they signed. Now they did agree to pay $2,000. We thought, okay, that would go a long way, but had to continue paying. So basically when the agreement was signed, they were $13,299 behind. As of today, they're $13,689.08 behind. They're getting a service that they absolutely not paying
I'm sorry
for.
to interrupt you.
Sure.
But I just have to swear you in first. All right. If you
Do I have to start all over then?
Do you mind raising your hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Okay. You can continue with your testimony.
Do I need to repeat everything I already said?
Yes, please.
Okay. Again, I wasn't expecting to participate in this tonight. I just assumed that someone from Reboot would be here to try to explain to the select board the situation. But since, well, even prior to December, they were not paying their sewer bills. In December, we signed an agreement with them, set up a payment schedule, weekly payment schedule, and they also had to pay any new sewer bills on time. Now, they started paying weekly for, I think it was most of January, a little part of February. Then they stopped and a check came in, there were insufficient funds, and then there were no payments. So the reboot was put on our agenda, the Sewer Commission agenda, in the beginning of April 9th meeting, to discuss where we should go, whether we should recommend to the select board that the license be revoked. And at the time, Reboot agreed to pay $2,000. We thought that would go a long ways, so we decided not to make a decision that night. But we were fully expecting that they would meet their obligation by the 28th of May. They have not. And in December, when they signed the agreement, they were they owed $13,299. As of today, they owe $13,689.08. And they've had no contact with us, given us no indication where they are with this, other than the fact that we know they haven't paid. So we are asking that the select board revoke their license. They're not paying for a service that they're receiving. We have 1,000 other sewer customers that are paying their bills.
All right, well, thank you for your testimony.
Okay.
And since no one is here to represent them, I will open it up to the board to ask questions. Mr. Reynolds, just stay at the podium just in case anyone has questions for you. So we can start with Selectman Alonso.
No questions, it's pretty clear cut.
Yep, no questions from me.
Me either.
None for me.
Yeah, I agree, it's very straightforward. So is there a motion?
Move to revoke the license of the Reboot under the failure to pay agreement that was signed, when was it signed? In December. Do we have a signing date of this?
December 13th, 2023.
There we go, it's December 13th, 2023.
Second.
Any additional discussion?
I just want to clarify in that motion that it's a liquor license that's being revoked? Or is it all licenses?
It was an all
well,
alcohol license.
the sewer, that's a good question. What are we being asked to revoke? I mean, the liquor license doesn't cause the sewer, that doesn't incur any sewer charges. So one would think that the ability to operate in its entirety, including the common vic license, would also be up for grabs to be rescinded. It's the cooking of the food that affects the sewer and the grease traps, et cetera, not the serving of liquor unless they're pouring a lot of liquor down the drain. So but I don't know what this was posted as. Is this posted as just a liquor license or all licenses?
Well, the agenda says it's a hearing to review the all alcohol license.
I would separate the motion into possible findings, meaning they've been found for non-payment of taxes per the Chapter 40, Section 57, and then the violation as well.
Okay, I don't know that I followed that to make the motion. So what do you want to divide it into two, meaning?
The steps would be possible findings that they've, non-payment of taxes. You found that they have not paid their taxes per Mass General Law,
Sure.
Chapter 4057, and the violation would mean revoke their license.
License or licenses?
The agenda, I can't pull up the public
Yeah, what
hearing
does the
notice
hearing
right now.
notice say? That's what.
But the
we're-
agenda
So
only
because otherwise,
states-
how does that help us if they can't serve liquor, but they can still serve food? and they can still operate. So they'll have to come before, if it wasn't posted that way, it wasn't posted that way. They're gonna have to come before us anyway. So we should be able to revoke that one too, but if that's not the way it was posted. So I'll make the motion that we find that Reboot is in violation of their agreement of paying their back taxes as agreed to on December 13th, 2023 as the first motion.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? The motion passes unanimously. All right, moving on.
Make a motion to rescind the alcohol license due to the violation.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion passes. All right, moving on to our 7:30 p.m. hearing with request from Chief of Police to hear and discuss the revocation of Class 2 auto dealer license for Jose Iris de Oliveira, doing business as Maxi Auto Inc., and Lunenburg Auto Center located at 36 and 40 Summer Street. I'll invite the Chief of Police up to present the request. And please raise your hand if you are here to offer any sort of testimony or, okay. Yep. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? I do. All right, thank you. So how this is going to work is first I will invite up the Chief of Police to present the request here, and then we will hear from anyone else that wants to speak on behalf of Maxi Auto Inc. and Lunenburg Auto Center. The board will then have an opportunity to speak and ask questions, and then we will discuss.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for having us tonight. I'm here, Chief Thomas Gamble, Lunenburg Police Department. I'm here to present you with a request to revoke a license for Maxi Auto and Lunenburg Auto Center here in Lunenburg on Summer Street. In the last month, the department has received and has investigated several complaints involving Maxi Auto. The complaints ranged from vehicles being sold without titles to fraudulent documents for vehicles that were sold and misuse of dealer plates. On May 20th, based on the numerous amount of complaints that were received, Officer Hill, with the assistance of Mass State Police Trooper Eugene Lawrence, followed up the investigation and inspected the both businesses on Summer Street. When they got down there, the owner was identified as Sidney Fernandez de Souza. At that time, they did the inspection and found that the listed owner of the property was Mr. Oliveira Jr., which wasn't matching what Mr. de Souza was presenting to them. They reviewed the license and confirmed that Mr. de Oliveira was listed as the owner. Upon reviewing the documents that have been provided to me from the town, it was also found that the certificate was presented to Mr. Oliveira. When I reviewed the conditions of the certificate, especially through the Zoning Board of Appeals, as a condition of the special permit under condition number 8, granting this, and I'll quote this, the granting of this special authorization shall inure to the benefit of the applicant and shall cease in the event the business is sold or sublet. By this account, the business has been selling cars for over a year without a proper license. By the conditions of the appeal from the Zoning Board of Appeals, they should have applied for a new license under the new ownership name. After receiving numerous complaints, they went down and found that there was several different complaints going on, as well as what we have received. I'm going to invite Officer Hill up here to give you a summary of what we have discovered and what we're applying for a criminal summons in court. Officer Hill.
Hello everyone, Officer Jeffrey Hill, Lunenburg Police. I'm going to try my best to sum up a 12-page police report as quickly and efficiently as I can with you guys. As Chief Gamble said, myself and Trooper Lawrence from Mass State Police conducted on May 20th, on Monday of this year, an inspection of both Maxi Auto and Lunenburg Auto Sales at 40 and 36 Summer Street. Prior to our inspection, when we met at the police department, I was informed by Lieutenant Thibodeau that a victim over the weekend had actually reached out. A gentleman in his late 70s had purchased a car without a title 4.5 months ago and had been given a repair plate to circumvent properly registering the vehicle, as there was no title. After I was able to speak with that gentleman, a Mr. George Brown of Ashburnham, he explained to me that he had bought the car for his wife over 4.5 months ago, and that they've been driving with the plate for that amount of time, violating 2 Mass General laws for unregistered and uninsured motor vehicle, as well as a Code of Mass regulation for a misuse of a dealer or repair plate. Once finally there, Trooper Lawrence and myself observed 18 vehicles for sale. They all had American flags, for sale stickers. Some had the yellow sticker for lemon law. Some had their vehicle year or mileage. They were all very obviously slated for sale. Immediately we noticed that there was 4 vehicles that didn't have the lemon law notice, which is in violation of Mass General law as well. Once going in there, Trooper Lawrence and myself identified, as Chief Gamble said, the self-proclaimed owner and manager of the business, Sidney Fernandez de Souza, who's here today. Immediately we asked to see their Class 2 license for 36 Summer Street as well as 40 Summer Street, both of which had Jose Iris de Oliveira. When asked about that, as Jose was not on scene, Sidney explained to us that he had since bought out Jose's share of the business, and now he was the sole owner and manager of it. As Chief Gamble said, that is a clear violation of not only Condition 8 of their Class 2 license, but Mass General law as well for unlicensed car sales. The next thing Trooper Lawrence and I were able to do is inspect their logbook. There is a 7-day grace period given to put all of a purchasers, sellers, any sort of info for any sort of car sale. For example, if you bought it from an auction and then I sold it to someone, all of that within 7 days is supposed to be logged. We asked them for their most recent book. Again, it was May 20th. The most recent entry they had was March 20th, 60 days prior, in clear violation of Mass General law. Further inspection of past dates, as we had nothing in the past 60 days, we observed that there was multiple seller infos that were completely blank. This appeared to be very similar to the type of complaints we had received of people not getting titles and not properly being sold vehicles and giving false plates to put on them. I believe that was an attempt to circumvent responsibility. At random, Trooper Lawrence and I picked 2 Ford Fusions that were sold in the past 6 months, both with no seller, or rather purchaser info who they had sold the vehicle to. We gave the VINs to Sidney, and he looked them up in his system, and both of them had been sold months prior, which I find unacceptable and in violation of Mass law. At that point, we also had informed them that the 6 plates that they had been given, 3 dealer plates for Maxi Auto and 3 repair plates for Lunenburg Auto Center, were in expired non-renewable status, and they were being seized. 3 of the dealer plates, all 3 were there and were immediately seized by Trooper Lawrence. There was 2 repair plates that were not there. We knew where one of them was, at the gentleman in Ashburnham's Range Rover. When asked about the 3rd one, Sidney explained it to us that he had given to his former business partner, Jose, which is in violation of Mass General law due to Jose, as Sidney claimed, not being part of the business anymore. Therefore, he is not one of the 3 types of people, a manufacturer, a repairer, or a seller who may have those plates. Shortly after, Jose drove there with the plate still on a pickup truck, took it off his truck, parked the truck, and was driven somewhere else by someone else with a properly registered vehicle. At that point, we had gone to 36 Summer Street, Lunenburg Auto Center, which is their repair side of the 2 businesses. As we got there, we realized there was no office of any sort. There was a small room that was disheveled and appeared full of dust. Trooper Lawrence asked Sydney if 36 Summer Street's documents were in 36 Summer Street as they are required by law. He stated no, they were all, both businesses were at 40. Also as well, which is in violation of a separation of business Mass General Law. Also in violation of the separation of business Mass General Law. When we returned to look at most of the titles, or at least copies of titles that Maxi Auto had, vehicles being sold at Maxi Auto, 40 Summer, more than half of them had titles for to be slated for sale or were purchased by 36 Lunenburg Auto Center. Once we requested all of those titles, at the time of the 18 cars slated for sale, we were only able to get 9 of them. Later in the afternoon, during my 3 to 11 shift, Sydney was able to bring 5 more, still leaving 4 cars that would have been sold that day if someone came up and asked them to purchase that car, as we had seen with the Range Rover and many other complaints, without a title, which would have made it so they couldn't even register a car that they had purchased. At that time, in the middle of our investigation, a gentleman came into the Lunenburg police lobby to request a follow-up. They had, a week or 2 prior, requested to file a police report as they had purchased a Jeep, which was still on the lot, and had not received a title. They had since attempted to insure it and had gotten a bank loan, which they were actively paying, and showed me proof of payment to a car that they still did not have because there was no title. When asked about that, there was no title that we were able to receive. Upon further inspection of the prior police report done by Officer Russell a few weeks prior, when he originally had purchased it, and I apologize, I don't remember the date. When he originally purchased that vehicle, he came back, explained, I need to register this car. They gave him new documents, forged RMV documents, a felony under Mass General Law, to make it appear as if a Jaguar had been traded in. A query of that Jaguar showed it actually to be a previous car of Mr. Jose de Oliveira. Michelle, the victim, that day was actually able to show me a copy that he still had of the RMV document, as well as the original one given to him by Maxi Auto. When you looked at the updated one, it showed that money was actually taken off as if there was a trade-in of this Jaguar. I believe that was very much so in another attempt to circumvent registration law, as there is a grace period. If I were to sell my vehicle with my plates on it right now, I have a certain time, if I relinquish that vehicle to a dealer or a junkyard, that I can put those plates to attempt to re-register the car to that plate. Speaking with Trooper Lawrence and Chief Gamble, who was now on scene at that time, Trooper Lawrence, and I believe he'll say the same thing, said that he has never seen this many violations happen at once. If I can give an opinion on it, I believe that not only is it unacceptable, it's predatory. Most individuals we were dealing with, there was a strong language barrier. Many of them were new to the country, didn't speak the language, and I believe that many of them believed that you can go somewhere in America, you can get something, you can trust it. When someone gives you documents and tells you this and takes your money and attempts to give you a car, that everything is going to work out, because that is thankfully the protections we have here, and I think they've all been let down. Again, we were still never able to receive those 4 titles. I was able to charge Sydney Fernandez de Souza with 9 charges, both in violation of Mass General Law and Code of Mass Regulations, including, as I said, 1 felony for forging RMV documents. Trooper Lawrence was then also able to charge Sydney administratively through the RMV in an attempt to permanently revoke all 6 of their plates. I believe throughout the 2 or so years that we've been receiving complaints from them, it used to be every once in a while, once a month, civil issues. They didn't like how Maxi Auto was conducting themselves. In the past 2 months, we've received over 15 complaints about them. I don't know what has changed. I'm not entirely sure, but all I know is that it is completely unacceptable how they've conducted business in the town of Lunenburg. Thank you.
I would like to invite Trooper Lawrence up. He'll explain the differences between the licenses and the two businesses mixing.
Mr. Chair, at what point may we ask questions?
If you have questions specifically for Officer Hill,
I do.
okay, I can invite him back up.
Yes, sir.
Can you speak to me about how you were able to get access to the property? Like how you were able to inspect their books? Like what was the law that allowed you to do that?
Yes, sir. So unfortunately, Trooper Lawrence might have a better answer than me. I can give you an answer. So part of the law under used and new car sales, similar to when for example, a Bureau of Alcohol Control Commission agent can go in there at any time and inspect certain things or make certain requests about documents, persons on scene, etc. We can as well through agents of the RMV. Part of Mass General Law, I can get it for you if you want. I believe it's 14062, speaks about proper bookkeeping. So under that Mass General Law, we are able to at any point go into a dealer in town of new or used cars and inspect that book. And I believe the right to actually inspect would be under Chapter 90, Section 5.
And when you were on the premises, did you find the staff to be cooperative with the request?
I believe they were cooperative with giving us all of the info. When asked specifically about certain things, a lot of avoidance. Myself and Trooper Lawrence actually asked Sydney, knowing the answer full well about the forged RMV document with the Jaguar. We asked specifically in the victim Michelle's case, no, you had not done this, no Jaguar, you wouldn't know what we were talking about if we brought that up. Shortly after, 15, 20 minutes later, Officer Russell was actually able to bring that victim down. There's a language barrier as well with him. His cousin who was able to call, who was out of state, on speakerphone, we explained to him, could you please point out who helped you with the transaction? He pointed to a employee, and we asked, who gave you the documents, who did the documents? And he was able to point to Sydney Fernandez de Souza.
And is that person you're referencing here with us this evening?
Yes, sir.
And who is it?
This is Sydney Fernandez de Souza, and the original employee that he was confused about, who helped him, was Caio.
You made a comment about your perception being that the business is predatory. However, people who have English as a second language, often they go to businesses that speak the language that they understand. So how do you, in this case, draw that distinction?
Due to their predatory nature.
Yeah, so the predatory nature being, I'm asking how you identify, you offered an opinion, which I'm questioning.
Yes,
how
sir.
do you identify that it's predatory?
As I've spoken to over a dozen victims, only one of them was an original US-born citizen who spoke proper English. It seemed that those individuals with more of a language barrier, who didn't know the Mass General Laws or anything like that, who weren't able to know that this document someone's giving them, and just come back, we'll redo that, and we'll put these plates to a Jaguar on your plate. I believe people like that are more susceptible to these type of, as I said, predatory business practices.
I'm going to put words in your mouth and
Yes,
just
sir.
tell me if I'm correct.
Correct.
So your interpretation is that that the target clientele for this business, or at least the target, from what you can decipher from the complaints you've received, is that the target clientele for the business has English as a second language, that this business speaks another language other than English to make it easier for that target clientele, and that the bookkeeping that they're doing essentially is completely wrong, and that they are taking advantage of the fact that their target clientele cannot easily understand or read Mass General Laws. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct, all four of those.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so I'll invite, okay, we can continue on with our questions for Officer Hill, if anyone else has some.
I don't have any questions.
All right, thank you, Officer Hill.
Thank you.
Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen of the Select Board, my name is Trooper Gene Lawrence, Mass State Police. I've been with the Mass State Police for now my 33rd year, and I'm assigned to the Motor Vehicle Regulatory Section. That's the Vehicle Services Section of Section 5 of the Registry. I transferred there from the road probably 7 or 8 years ago, and I've been doing this ever since. I do enforcement of dealerships, repair shops, that kind of thing, to make sure they're in compliance with Mass General Law, make sure they're also in compliance with the towns that they're in, their licenses. So if they have a license in town, I make sure their license is valid, and then I go from there. And then we determine if they're compliant, they can get plates, dealer plates, repair plates, and so on. I received a call approximately a few weeks ago from Officer Jeff Hill from the Lunenburg Police Department, explaining that he had a lot of problems, the department did as a whole, a lot of problems, reports of customer complaints, and he was able to compile several of these complaints for me, and here they are here. It's like 8 or 9 of them here. So he told me even though the week that he was on vacation, 6 complaints had come in that week alone. So I had realized I knew the property well because I'm the person who actually did the original inspection and got Mr. De Oliveira the plates when he opened his business. Originally it was one business, Lunenburg Auto Center. Next came after, but they, unbeknownst to me, were owned by the same people. Part of the Mass General Law requires that dealerships be separate entities among themselves. Herb Chambers has 50 different dealerships. Each one has their own plates. They can never be mixed up. Their plates belong here, their plates belong there. That's how it works. These buildings are right next to each other. I always assumed there would be a problem in the future, and it wound up happening. The original complaints I got were about this one customer who had purchased a Range Rover, and it sounded odd and it sounded illegal, and it was that he had received a dealer plate at some point, not a repair plate, but I believe a dealer plate for his Range Rover, and had the vehicle for 4+ months. The law says that you can't sell a car without a title, that's first of all, and once a transaction is finalized, you as the customer have to register your own vehicle. You can no longer use a dealer plate. You can test drive the car prior to buying it, but once the transaction happens, there's no more dealer plate. It's ridiculous to have a guy drive around for 4.5 months with a dealer plate. And if a dealership can do without a dealer plate for 4.5 months, they don't need that dealer plate. So I called down to Ashburnham Police Department, where the gentleman lived, and asked one of their officers to go pick that plate up and bring it to their station. And then I promptly went down and picked it up from him. I seized all the plates as they were all expired, including the one on the gentleman's Range Rover. Had that person been involved in an accident, there'd be no insurance because the vehicle's not registered, and the plates were expired, non-renewable. Based on that, I went down with Officer Hill and did an inspection. The question earlier was, how do you come upon the property? How are you allowed into the property? Mass General Law says any official, town, city, state, can walk in and demand paperwork, and you as the customer, as the dealership, have to provide the documentation. So if the Select Board says, give me your books, some towns take their books and go over them themselves and for weeks at a time. The fire chief in some towns will go and make sure there's not too many vehicles on the property, that kind of thing. So that's the one thing. A lot of police don't know that, but they can go on and ask for anything they want as far as documentation. So prior to me actually going down there, I set up a complaint. I can actually give myself work. I can go into the system of the registry and assign myself a task, and this task was a investigation for complaint. The complaint were these 8 that I had in my hand. So I went down there, and as I always do, I said, I need to see your license, your Class 2 license. I need to see your driver's license so I can understand who you are. I want to see your used car record book, and that's the book that Officer Hill was referring to earlier. The used car record book is a white bound book, or it's an electronic thing that's in the system that you are supposed to document every transaction. The purpose of that is to document and to find any vehicles that might be stolen. Oftentimes people, even at auctions, will sell cars that are stolen. No one knows they're stolen, but that book tells me where those cars have gone to. So right, the book is set up in 3 stages on each page. The top part's the the car, the middle part's where you got it from, and the bottom part is where you sold it to. If the car is not sold, the bottom part is empty and the car is out front, in front of your business. In this particular business, which I've never seen before, there were 18 vehicles parked out front. Not one of the vehicles was in the used car record book. Not one.
Can you say that one more time? Not one was what? I'm sorry.
Not one of the 18 vehicles out front for sale was in the used car record book. Not showing me where you got it from, not showing me where it was, not showing me who we sold it to. It's just empty. The book is completely devoid of any information. So I asked, is your book up to date? And he said, no. I said, for how long? He said, approximately 2 months. To be sure that I got the right answers, Mr. Sidney Fernandez de Souza identified himself as the owner, and sitting two people away from him is Kaya. Is Kaya? Kayo. Kayo is his translator, because Kayo translated the entire thing for us and explained what I was saying to them when he had problems understanding what those things were. I explained that there are a lot of violations here, and they were anxious to do what they could at that point to try to get themselves in compliance. So I had brought up several instances, and one of them was the issue involving the white Jeep Cherokee, a 2017 Jeep Cherokee. A Lunenburg police officer was on patrol. He saw the thing leave the property. He ran the plate, and the plate comes back to 2017 Jaguar. So he pulls that car over, and he says, hey, what's going on with this plate? He gives him the paperwork, and the paperwork clearly says Lunenburg Auto Center on top of it. And in the midst of that paperwork, it shows a transaction for trade-in of a 2017 Jaguar for a 2017 Cherokee. Why you do that, I wouldn't know, but they did that. And he said, did you trade in a Jaguar? The gentleman said, no, I don't own a Jaguar. In whatever, maybe broken language, but he told me it wasn't my Jaguar. He knows nothing about it. So the vehicle was allowed to go back into the parking lot. The plates were taken, and these plates right here belong on the 2017 Jaguar. They were on a white Jeep Cherokee. So they were seized by the Lunenburg Police Department. I received these tonight, just as a static display for what happened that night. It just so happens that while I was doing this inspection, the person that had the Jaguar plates on his vehicle happened to walk into Lunenburg PD. They called Officer Hill on the radio and said, the guy with the Jaguar plates is here in the building. And he got dropped off because he has no car. So they drove him down to the place where I was at Maxi, and he came in. And with some help of an interpreter on the phone and Kayo, who was there, the gentleman pointed right to Mr. D'Souza and said, he's the guy who did the paperwork. Now, I had been asking Mr. D'Souza for about a half an hour. Do you remember having some transaction involving a Jaguar? Now, I don't see Jaguars very often. If you asked me about a Jaguar that I saw a month or two ago, I would remember seeing a Jaguar. He did not. He said, I don't know what you're talking about. It might be me. I don't know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. Well, the guy comes in. I have the document in my hand that he actually gave to him. It's in his hand. He further went on to say, not only did this paperwork involve a Jaguar and a transaction that never really happened, but that he had to come back almost 12 times to get new bills of sale so that the transaction would look more recent, so you have that 7-day rule to register your car. He said 12 times. So after hearing all of that, I told him that the used car record book was not up to date. It has to be. I had asked for his license for both places next door to each other, so they got both licenses. Both licenses, the Class 2 licenses, were in the name of Jose de Oliveira, the old owner. Now, he explained to me that he sold the business 2 months earlier, which I think it had been longer than that. I think it may have been almost a year. But he said, I sold it 2 months ago, and the reason the paperwork isn't up to date is because he still owes him $50,000. So I don't know that to be true. I do, however, know that the Jaguar plates, these plates right here, are registered to Jose de Oliveira, who's the old owner, who was not present, except when I called and said, I told Mr. D'Souza, I need these plates today, right now, because having those plates out there, but customers driving around not aware that these plates are expired, if they are ever involved in an accident, there'd be no insurance. I've been involved in several of these before. In Marlboro, we had a hit and run or a head-on collision involving these with people whose license weren't active, the plates were revoked. It's a big mess. So I asked them to bring that plate in right away. A pickup truck pulls in, Mr. De Oliveira shows up, gives them the plate, and then leaves. He had one of the dealer plates. So in addition to selling the business, in addition to loaning his plates to a customer to put on a car that had an illegal transaction, which is a felony, he actually had possession of a dealer plate. For what reason, I don't know, because if he's not in the business anymore, why doesn't he need a dealer plate unless he's driving around with it? So with all this going on, I made sure that I asked all the questions about the business and everything else. I asked him, what's the deal with the license? He said he spoke to someone on your board about transferring the license, and he mentioned a name. I forgot the name, but apparently the woman retired. She's in licensing.
Elaine Peterson.
That's her name. And he said, I talked to her about it, and then the chief caught that and said, yeah, I don't think so, because I think that she's not here anymore. But he mentioned he had made the inquiry with her, but nothing. I checked. The registry checked today. So this morning, I had a hearing through Zoom or through a call-in, a conference call hearing with the registry involving Mr. D'Souza. And my charges are the misuse of plates, customer had plate on vehicle for 4 months, 540 CMR, failure to notify registry of change of ownership, and that includes failure to notify the Secretary of State and failure to notify the town of Lunenburg. And while that's important, I need to express this too. Every town derives their power to give a Class II license to a dealership through a state law. And that state law allows them to give them that, but there's certain requirements. Those requirements are, one of them, the big one, is that there should be a surety bond for protection of consumers. So when there's fraudulent activity, when there's noncompliance of Mass General law, people who actually get defrauded or become victimized by these companies, they can actually put claims on that surety bond. But when you change ownership, the Class II license, the surety bond, and the license plates, dealer plates, are non-transferable. You have to apply for your own. You have to get your own bond, your own license. He didn't do any of that. I also charged him with 540 CMR, no separation of businesses. Like I said before, each business has their own paperwork, their own plates, their own everything, their own documentation of service work. That means repairs to vehicles, sales of vehicles. All those things didn't happen. They were all in one place. And there are times when you can actually combine your paperwork. In this case, there were two businesses doing the same thing. And it's easy to get confused. That's why we don't allow it to happen usually. But it happened in this case. And the failure to maintain the used car record book. 2 months is ridiculous. And it's a long period of time. And he had a bunch of vehicles missing the used car warranty label. Those used car warranties are a situation that's important here, because in one of the documents I read, doing my homework, reading what he wrote to one of the customers, one of the complaints was he had offered the guy a 20,000-mile warranty that he paid for himself. Mr. D'Souza paid for it himself, allegedly, a 20,000-mile warranty. When the guy came back to complain about the problems with his vehicle, he said, oh, he was 2,000 miles over the 20,000-mile warranty, so therefore he couldn't help him. The fact is that the used car warranty is clear when there's certain things that go on with a car. If I bring a car back to you 3 times for the same problem, you must give me my money back. And I don't know the situation with him, but he clearly didn't offer the used car warranty to the customer. And so they have to be in every vehicle for sale for the purpose of advising the consumer what their rights are, and that's through the AG's office. So I probably may have missed some things, but there are quite a few problems here. And based on all of these facts, I conclude that Maxi Auto and Lunenburg Auto Center deliberately defrauded people by not giving them titles, by deceptive practices, and I think created a lot of victims in the process. And I think based on those things, maybe a few of these things can be corrected, but in my experience, The length that he went to cover up this Jaguar trade-in thing, putting customers' lives, in jeopardy based on not having insurance and everything else, I think that he does not need, in my opinion, to be in the business of selling motor vehicles to people, based on my experience doing this for a very long time.
All right, thank you for your testimony.
Yes, sir.
Trooper Lawrence. Are there any questions for him?
I do have one question. So you basically touched on it at the end in your experience. So in your experience, since we have no history with the applicant,
Sure.
Clearly the charges are numerous and the violations are numerous.
Yeah.
In your experience, this would be enough sufficient even in the first case because of the volume and the extent that you feel they went through to circumvent some of these things.
Yes.
That they should lose their both licenses.
I do, sir, and I can go one step further. I gave him a lot of opportunities to tell me the truth about what happened with this one transaction in particular, but he went to such great lengths to lie about it. And had it not been for the customer who happened to walk into the station and get driven down there and then pointed them out and gave me the document in my hand, I'm now looking at it, and then you can see the change in his reaction, that he realized the goose was cooked. It was him. And so I think when you start giving people dealer plates through the registry of motor vehicles, and the registries had their problems in the past, they don't need, it seems like a repair plate or a dealer plate is some kind of stamp of approval that a police officer came in, did an inspection, and has verified that they are a legitimate business to get a dealer plate. It's a privilege to have one. I think he violated that, and that's why we took our plates back. And the registry told him today at the conclusion of the meeting, when he even asked if he can apply for more dealer plates, I chimed in, and so did the registry, and said, well, A, you don't have a license to sell cars at all, and B, based on these practices, I don't think you can ever get a license, dealer plates in Massachusetts. So that was today, this morning at 10 o'clock. And they were summarily revoked as a result of this morning's hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Sometimes inexperience looks like deliberate misconduct. How do you differentiate the two in this case?
Well, I think when you don't know something, you admit you made a mistake because you don't know. When you lie about something and you try to go out of your way to cover that lie, and you give people documentation that you know is false, that's the difference between not knowing and doing something deliberate. Deliberate acts tell me that you know better, but you're trying to save yourself. He gave somebody a plate for 4.5 months because he knew we couldn't get a title. He shouldn't have sold the car without a title. And the other person with the Jaguar, that looked to any police officer like, oh yeah, this is a legitimate deal. He traded in his Jaguar for a Cherokee. That doesn't track. But I will say this one last thing. As a result, and I go back to the surety bond stuff, this morning I got a call from the auction, from the America's Auto Auction in Billerica. They told me that he asked me, first of all, do they have a license still? I said, for now they do, but I don't believe he had one to begin with because I think he was working on somebody else's license. They advised me that they had bounced 3 checks in the last few weeks, and they got a bank check for $25,000 yesterday, and they're waiting for it to clear. I hung up the phone, I called the chief, and while I was on the phone with the chief, the auction calls me back. There are 2 different companies, 2 different banks, Netgear and BuzzFeed, 2 banks in Mass that have multiple titles with them, cars with them, that want their cars back. And I know that several cars, based on some reports from the PD, have been repoed at the lot for non-payment. I think there's a financial problem there. I think there's a moving around of money, and maybe that is going to affect the way these people do business in town. And I think it sends a shadow over the town of Lunenburg, who might allow something like that. So I think that's why I made a point of bringing the chief in and everybody else involved in this to make sure we get this thing put to rest.
All right. Are there any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, if I may add a few more things to this situation. Mr. De Souza came to see me the day after that this occurred, and I asked him for the proof of sales or proof of purchase that he purchased a business as required by the Class 2 auto dealer license too. I asked him for the surety, the $25,000 bond, or documentation of financial responsibility. None of that was provided. He explained to me that he was gonna email that information to me. I still yet to receive any of that information. He did mention to me that he did try to speak with Elaine Peterson back in February. The information was very limited. I believe that he was trying to transfer or get a license at that point, but he didn't have any paperwork or any proper paperwork at the time. He was told to follow up. No attempts were ever made to follow up with that information. I will say that one of our earliest reports was back from October of 2023, and he espoused to be the owner of the business. When I spoke to him on scene, Mr. De Souza informed me that he's an experienced salesman, that he's been doing this for over 3 years. So I would echo with what Trooper Lawrence said, that that this is not inexperience, that he actually managed that facility while it was owned by Mr. De Oliveira. So he's well aware of how documents are presented, how they need to be submitted to the RMV, and how the plates work. With that being said, that'll close our testimony at this point. I would like to recommend a disposition after the conclusion of the hearing.
All right, thank you, Chief. I'll now give Sidney and his translator, Kayo, an opportunity to respond. Is Mr. Oliveira here?
Yes.
Tonight? Okay. Would you also like to come up to testify?
Yeah, come on. Hi, my name is Sidney Fernandez de Souza. I try to speak English. I speak English, but my English is not perfect, but I learn it right now. I have 41 years old. I live in Leominster, almost 3 years old. And just explanation, I work in MaxCR in Lunenburg almost 3 years with Jose. You know, when they stay here in the past, we apply together, but they just the license say in Jose's name. You know, just explanation, for example, in the last year in Lunenburg in MaxCR, we sold almost like 365 cars, you know, the last years. Only these years, I sold like 63 cars. You know, I totally understand because I am responsible for all situation, you know. But for example, for about specific cars, I have like the answer for about this specific car is no, I know just 5, you know, for my error, for my fault, for about my stuff, but I responsible. And I would like to check, I would like to talk for about the specific situation for the transfer license. Jose is the owner. I have the partner together, and almost 2 months ago, we decided because Jose have more 2 companies, HVAC and paving, and we decided Sidney, your wife, my wife come to Brazil, and right now go to invest in the company and just stay alone. We bought for Jose for 100,000. 150,000 I brought for this company, for Jose. And for between this situation, we plan for start to board the Lunenburg and for by itself in February. But we signed like in April 1st, okay? But between this situation, because we have a lot of cars in my lot, I talked to Jose, and Jose,
Jose was following up with them.
Is following for this situation until finalize the transfer license. For just this reason, because Jose when sold to me the dealership, Jose has couple cars in the lot, you know, like almost 12, 13 car in the lot. For just this reason, I just finished the application for the license, okay? I stay here in the past, I talked to Elaine. I drop off couple documentation if you can talk to Elaine later. And for Jack, but the line say, listen, is missing couple documents. You need, after you finish, you come here, but I don't return here. I don't finish for just this reason, because I just finished sold all cars. Jose is staying in my lot for just this reason. This is the point for the license, okay? For about the customer, the car stay almost for 4 months is correct. This is my total fault, because when the customer bought this car with us, we explanation for about the title, is miss the title, and my default, my staff is sold the car when I don't have the title, because when I receive the title, it's necessary to duplicate and delay a lot for just the reason. In the second situation, for about the one car, when I talked to the state trooper, listen, I don't know for about about this situation. No, I can't lie. I just finished. Listen, I double check, but I don't know for about this, and I check my stuff. And after I can check, I know one guy make a paperwork and bring it for this customer. But just the point, sir, I would like to explain for us. We work in Lunenburg almost 3 years. You know, we have, I stay with Jose here for all the time, because I work more inside, and Jose in the past work more outside, buy and sell cars, and stay more inside. We help a lot. My English is not perfect, but here Lunenburg, Leominster, Worcester, we have a lot of Brazilian, Spanish guys. For just this reason, I sold a lot of cars here, and we help a lot of community here. You know, because I have many Brazilians, many Spanish guys here when I work a lot. And if you see in my past, I don't have any criminal in my name. I don't have any problem. And Jose and Caio and my wife is here right now. We have any problem in the past. I totally understand. We make a fault, you know, for about the specific issues, because I have like, for example, one example. For example, in my book. I have my nephew work with me, but when the state police is staying in the office for request, but I'm very not sure. I don't know, because the guy forgot, don't put the cars in my lot in the book. You know, pode falar que você esqueceu essa situação.
So I mean, of course, we all have our own roles where we work at, and I do assume that was my fault. Of course, not updating the book. Once he appeared to, as he mentioned before, once he appeared to the dealership, he did mention that we still could have time to finish the book, and as we did, we have the books here, both of them, for 2023 and 2024. They are all updated, so he did give us time for that, and we did do what he told us to do.
And just for the point, for example, the total car we sold in last year, in this year we sold almost 2023 and 2024 almost 400 car. You know, we sold car a lot, and I have a specific problem. I know I don't need to have any problem. I totally understand, because I make a specific fault. And I stay here, and I would like to check, for example, because I brought the dealership couple for me just right now. Yeah, this possibility, for example, for example, today we have, before the meeting, we send all documentation for insurance, for the title, for all cars I have in my lot. You know, I send all documentation for Section 52, and I would like to check with yours again. One more chance for explanation for you check my job, because if you see, we have the community here and the location a lot. You know, we sold a lot of cars, and in almost 3 years, if you account from around 500 cars, and before 23 and 24, just like 400 cars. You know, I sold a lot, and again, one more time, I totally understand for about the specific faults you have, but we just would like one more chance for you see my job, for my company, for our staff, because I am remodulation. Couple guys is left, I contract another guys, and Jose stay here for just confirm the situation. We just now finish the application because we sold couple cars, you know, and for example, Jose, all the time per week, like 3 times per week, go in the dealership for double check for finalize the application, the license in your name, in my name, sorry.
All right, thank you. I'll open it up for questions, starting with Selectman Alonso.
So, the first defense I hear from you is that while you may have had these violations that the officers gave, we should look over that because you sold a whole lot of other cars. Is that the defense?
No.
Okay. So of the 18 vehicles that were on the site, that 9 you didn't have titles for?
No explanation. For example, when I bought this car, you know, I have one company, the company, the name Forplan. The company bought this car from auction for me. I don't have the title. Sometimes I have a couple titles in my hand. Sometimes the bank hold the title. I sold the car. I request for the bank, listen, send me the title because I sold the car. The bank send me the title and I have, you know, but when the office say about the 18 cars, I make a print the copy and I drop it off for all cars. All title for the Hill, I think.
Well, my understanding from the police report, both police reports, is that you can't have them slated for sale if you don't have the titles.
Entendi, eu não posso. Tente só explicar para ele o seguinte. Não, eu só quero explicar para ele o seguinte, da situação do Forplan, que a gente tem um Forplan que a gente compra o estário e eles ficam com o estário. Então, okay, I heard the guy's explanation is better for you.
So, again, this is Caio. I forgot to introduce myself at first. But going back to what you were saying, he was telling me in Portuguese. I'll just translate what he told me. So, as he was saying, we do have some titles in hand at the dealership, but we also work with a bank company called Forplan. They hold the title of the vehicles that we had in the lot once they appeared to the dealership. The ones that we didn't have in hand, they were located at the Forplan company.
Right, but they need to be on hand. That's the law. That's my understanding, that the law means they have to be on hand.
Yeah, but as he... Yeah, so as he mentioned, I mean,
right.
that's...
I'm going to ask Trooper Lawrence to come back up to address this.
If I could offer something here, the floor plan.
Oh, yeah.
There are banks that have a division called floor plan, where they loan money to dealerships to buy cars, and the dealer's supposed to pay the bank off, and then they hold the title until those loans are paid off. Unfortunately, the idea of floor plan was that they were supposed to buy the cars through a loan, pay off the loan, get the title, and then sell the car. What's happened here and a lot of other places is that floor plan holds a title, they get a big enough loan, and they don't pay off the loan in time until the customer comes in to buy a specific car, and then they go down to that bank to get the title that day. So you buy the car from me today, and he runs down to the bank to get the title for that car. Sometimes when the loan is very large and he hasn't been paying on time, which is what the case is in some of these cases, the bank will hold the titles until you pay a sufficient amount of money toward the money you owe them. And that's where the problem lies. So while you're supposed to have a title to sell the car, you at least have access to the title. And in some cases where he doesn't have enough money or didn't pay the entire loan, he can't get the titles back because the bank won't give it to him.
But the car's been sold.
The car's been sold already. Paperwork's been transferred.
Okay, again, so now we're getting into like lots of, I'm going to ask you a direct question. I'm looking at the report from the police where it says, of the 18 vehicles slated for sale, Maxi Auto was unable to present the title for 9 of these. It should be noted that Mass law requires a title to sell the vehicle. So is that, or is that not, it's kind of a Boolean question, is that not, or is it a violation?
It's a violation in that he didn't have access to the titles from the bank. He should have had paid the loan off already and gotten the titles back and then sold the car. That's how it's supposed to work. But it's not unreasonable for them to get a title that same day. If you bought a car from me today and I went down to the bank and got the title and gave it to him, that's not unreasonable. And that's what's been happening. He's been going down there and the bank's not agreeable to giving up the title because a sufficient enough amount of the loan has not been paid and they're holding the titles because of it.
Okay.
So, can I follow, is reasonable law, when you say reasonable, is that?
They have to generate a title within a reasonable amount of time, and that's not been very specific. Sometimes the title is mailed from another location to his location. It's like an auction will be out of state. He'll buy it online. They'll mail the title to them, so the customer wants to buy the car. The title comes in another 2 or 3 days. That's reasonable, I think. In some cases, like this guy had a car for 4 months.
Yeah.
The title was available, except that someone didn't pay enough money to get the car paid off, and therefore the bank was holding the title for 4.5 months, and the guy's driving around with the dealer plate.
I mean, is it, like you can put a deposit down until they get the title, and then you come back, pay for the rest of the car, and drive it off the lot?
You certainly can do that. That's not what happened here.
Thank you. So the 6 plates, so all the 3 repair and 3 dealer plates, that all expired. So that's just another oversight, like you just forgot to renew those?
No. So when I tried to because the dealer expired in March right now, when I make for transfer the license, but when I see the license is not transferred, it's necessary finish the application for apply for dealer license. It's no repair license, there's the dealer license I have.
But you knew that was happening, but that didn't stop you from selling cars and using the plates?
No, but because there's a matter, the dealer license, ele falou assim, se o que ele cantou? Deixa eu confirmar.
Não, ele está falando que do mesmo jeito, mesmo sabendo que tinha que fazer a transferência da transação com o Júnior e tudo mais, do mesmo jeito você continua vendendo os carros.
Yeah, because I buy and sell car. It depends the license because I just sometimes use the dealer license for transfer the car for the dealer pick up the auction, you know. But I don't. For example, it depends the license renew. It's possibility I buy cars because my dealer plate expired. You know, no my license for buy a car.
Right, but I mean, the point is the dealer licenses on the repair and the auto place had expired, so you couldn't use them. Mm-hmm. They were not valid to use. They would be illegal to put on a vehicle. But you were still using them until the police came and saw that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's correct.
And what about let's see, we have, I mean, I'll just throw out a few of the others. I mean, here's a simple one. Here's a simple one you could do. You don't have a lemon law sticker on the cars you're selling. Yeah. How is that even possible? That doesn't require any work. It just requires a sticker and somebody to put it on.
Yeah, when the state for make an investigation, the lot, you'll have, I believe, 4 or 5 cars missing the state law, because como puder, não tem desculpas, né?
So he's saying there is no excuse for that.
No excuse, but the car is arrival like couple days because when arrival the dealer auto detail and my guys forward they put the lemon law sticker.
Well, my feeling is that there's a whole lot of things that there's no excuse for, and they pile up, and yet I'm supposed to give you a second chance because you sold, over 3 years, you sold a few hundred cars, and it doesn't matter, don't worry about the ones that didn't get sold right. That would be like going to a restaurant and saying, well, we serve lots of customers and only very few get sick.
No, I totally understand, so okay. I understand your point. I just say, this is my fault, because I need a supervisor for my team for about this specific, but he's correct, he's missing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So I have one question. The business is now in your name, correct? You own the business?
Right now, the business is staying the Jose name. You know, I just finished, I explained right now. 2 months ago, we bought. I just finished the sold couple cars for finish the application, because, for example, me and Junior, we have like a very good relation. For example, we are cousin, we live it all together, and for just the reason, I just finished the full application in my name, my wife's name, because I just finished the sold couple cars because I stay in the lot, you know, for just this reason.
So my understanding is the name of the person who owns the business is not the same as the name of the person on the license. Is that correct? I'm looking over to the...
confirmation for phone.
Maybe one of the officers can confirm?
I think everything is in,
I
Jose.
thought I
Jose.
heard there was a discrepancy in the license and the ownership of the business.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
upon my arrival for the inspection, I was met by the owner, identified himself as the owner. That's Sidney Fernandez de
Souza.
Oliveira. And
De Souza.
sorry. He's Jose de Oliveira. The license is in the name of Jose de
Jose.
Oliveira only. But not only the license for Maxi, the license for Lunenburg Auto Center, and there is some issue with some kind of a, what's it called? Zoning board.
Zoning boards.
deal. That's all in the name of Mr. Jose de Oliveira. So Sidney explained to me that there was a deal in place, that he still owed $50,000 to Jose, and he was paying off the business, and that's why the paperwork wasn't up to date. And he told me that happened 2 months earlier. But Lunenburg, the Registry of Motor Vehicles, and the Secretary of State's office were not notified. And the bank surety issue is not transferable.
Okay.
Does that answer?
I think so. I mean, that breaks some Mass General law.
Yes, it does, and it breaks our own zoning.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions?
Yes. Do you have any?
No, I think they've covered my questions so far.
So, from what I'm hearing today, I'm going to ask you, Sidney, Mr. D'Souza, a couple of just pointed questions. Who is the owner of the property?
The property, I hand the property.
Who owns the property?
The Maxi Auto is Mike, and Mike Kelly is his brother, and the Lunenburg 36 Summer Street is a Peter.
Okay, so you are not the property owner?
No, I rent.
All right. Have you paid Mr. Oliveira any money for the business?
I just
And you paid him $100,000?
Yeah, $150,000.
Okay. And to date, what you were buying was the business, if I'm correct, not the property. You were buying the business from Mr. Oliveira, and you've worked at the business under Mr. Oliveira's ownership for the last couple of years. All right, I have questions then for you, Mr. Oliveira. So what it sounds like to me is it sounds like you bamboozled Mr. D'Souza over here, that you sold him a business for $100,000. You didn't have books that were up to date, because as we heard in testimony, the books weren't updated for the last, at least the last year. It sounds as though the dealer plates, at the time that the purchase happened, is it correct that it happened on April the 1st?
É correto que a transação de dólares foram feitas no dia 1º de abril?
Yes.
But you sold the business on April the 1st?
Yes.
Okay, so the plates that expired in March had nothing to do with Mr. Oliveira. They had everything to do with you. So you sold him a business, and if you can translate with him what I'm saying, you sold him a business with bad books, with bad plates, without any clear guidance on what he needed to do to actually transfer the business over. So it's not his business, it's your business. If you want to translate that, if you didn't hear
yes.
it.
Yes. But the Sidney told you guys about the, I just buy and fix the cars, you know, about the office, everything about the office. Sidney take care about the response about the, you know, because before I.
But it's in your name, and you will concede
my name.
100% that it's in your name, and you are fully legally responsible for the business, yes?
But yes, but I have the one partnership with the city. Sydney, you take care about the office, documentation, administration, and you take care about the cars, you know, the buy and sell the cars. I have one, I needed the help just because my English não. So, tipo assim, explico para ele que, tipo, eu fazia parte da operação, I take care about the operation and the Sydney about the documentation and administration, you know. And I don't know about any documentation, just só acompanhava o Sydney.
So, long story short, he had like one role, Sydney had another, and him as the owner, he just like followed up with Sydney on everything that was being done in the company in Maxi Auto in Lunenburg.
So then he didn't actually take responsibility for running the business. He just got the licenses in his name, but he didn't run it.
Então você tipo não administrou nada, só deu o seu nome para poder fazer.
Não, trabalhava junto. No, I works together with the city, but city have a more facilidade, more facility about it.
Experience with one thing than Jose does.
No.
Okay, I think I understand. I think I get it.
I mean, if you have a question, you let me know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we're going to at some point have some comments here, but I think that it seems pretty straightforward what happened here, which is that this business transferred in the last 60 days over to Mr. D'Souza, that Mr. D'Souza has been operating in kind of a manager role. Nonetheless, Mr. D'Souza coughed up $100,000, handed it to you, still owes you another $50,000, but he's not actually buying a business because the business, you haven't taken responsibility, it seems, for actually running the business, for complying with the law, that you, as the owner, have not personally taken the responsibility of being legally compliant. So you sold him a business for $150,000 that, in my opinion, you had no right to sell. And so now he's out $100,000, you're about to get your license revoked, and so he doesn't have a business that he just bought, you're the winner. You make $100,000, and he has nothing. So I'll save my comments. I don't have any more questions here.
All right, thank you very much for your testimony. I will invite the Chief of Police back up if there's any other remarks he'd like to make.
I think the only other remarks I would have is a disposition. I would just remind from earlier testimony that Mr. D'Souza claimed to have bought the business last year. The transaction didn't happen in April, I can tell you that. This has been ongoing with Mr. De Oliveira is definitely complicit to what's going on here. And I would suggest the stuff that I have left is about my recommendation and the disposition after you've deliberated. The one thing I do want to remind too that the banks have called our town also to say that he's defaulted and that they were looking for information.
And if I may, Mr. Chair. Yes. The bank's calling about Jose De Oliveira or Mr. D'Souza?
Mr. D'Souza.
Mr. D'Souza?
Yes.
Okay. So Mr. D'Souza has loans in his name?
I believe so.
For the
I can't verify that. The information, we've been trying to get information from Mr. D'Souza and it's okay. Not forthcoming.
All right. Mr. Chair, if I may. What are the banks calling the town about?
To see if they actually have a auto dealer's license here.
Oh, okay. They wanted to verify the license.
Yeah, questioning different things. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I will open it up to the board now to discuss what we want to do here.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that a revocation is clear. Mm-hmm. I think that this business looks like a criminal enterprise. I think it's unfortunate that Mr. D'Souza and his wife, his nephew, have been wrapped up in this. It sounds like they're the true losers here because they're out $100,000 and they owe Mr. De Oliveira even more. But Mr. De Oliveira seems to have had no business selling a business that he clearly wasn't managing, wasn't verifying that things were in order, and that it seems from the testimony we heard, when I say enterprise, it seems as if the requirements weren't clear enough, and we have a higher standard, I think, for businesses. I think it's a good thing for businesses to cater to target audiences, that if you know that, you speak Portuguese, that there's a large and growing Brazilian population, to be able to offer that direct service to them, I think is a great thing. But to do it in a way that someone has to come back 12 times to get a new purchase and sale agreement is outrageous. To do a purchase and sale that says that you traded in a Jaguar when you didn't, that shows clear intent to violate the law, and that's deliberate, and that's because I have a plate for a Jaguar, so I'm going to put it on another vehicle, and I'm going to make the paperwork match the plate, which is just fraudulent, flat out. So I think, unfortunately, it's crystal clear. I know that this is going to go the criminal route. I hope that Mr. D'Souza and his family don't suffer too much in the process, although I think they're complicit in the enterprise. But we're not here to identify a criminal enterprise as much as is this the kind of business that should be licensed to do this kind of work here in town, and the answer is no.
All right, just going to canvass the rest of the board to see where we're at right now and whether or not we agree with that.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yep.
I would just like to echo Select Board Member Jeffrey's comments. I think that, and building off of what Officer Hill brought forward, that this is clearly a predatory enterprise to a vulnerable population, and I agree that we should be revoking their license.
I would agree that we should revoke the license. I also am not here to take any stand with either of the applicants. We're here about the license and the ownership of the license by the ownership of the company, and clearly they have numerous violations. I'll let the two co-owners, previous owners, however you want to label them, let them fight it out among themselves, but certainly the company and the two businesses should not have a license in Lunenburg, given the vast amount of evidence that was presented here tonight.
Yeah, I also support revoking the license due to the numerous violations and neglect, whether intentional or unintentional. You own a business, you're responsible for understanding what needs to be done and what the laws are.
All right, I'm in agreement with all of that. So, Chief, did you want to come up one more time?
With that being said, one of my recommendations, or two of my recommendations, is to issue an immediate cease and desist order. As of today, we've been patrolling the areas, and we've noticed that the open sign is still there. We've advised them that they didn't technically have a license, and they should be monitoring what they're doing. I shouldn't be selling cars right now until this issue is resolved. I'm also requesting that all vehicles are removed from the property within 7 days of issuing of this revocation.
Are you entertaining motions, Mr. Chair?
Yes, I will entertain a motion.
I move to revoke the...
Can you,
Yep.
it would be possible finding and then violation.
Okay, so first we have to include possible finding and then the violation.
Fines?
Finding.
I move that the board find that the defendants are guilty, the defendants being Max Auto Inc. and Lunenburg Auto Center, are guilty of the violations presented to us by law enforcement this evening.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor, say yes.
Aye.
Yes. Aye.
Yes. All those opposed? All right, the motion passes, and yep.
Mr. Chair, I move for the board to revoke all licenses for, make sure I get the business name correct, for Lunenburg Auto Center, also known as Mackey Auto Inc., for them to remove all vehicles from the property within 7 days and remove all signage that indicates that they're open for business, and to cease all activities related to the sale or repair of motor vehicles.
Mr. Chair, just for the record, the motion should indicate, and I think they were muddled that they're two separate entities. So Lunenburg Auto Center and Maxi Auto Inc. are two separate companies on two separate addresses, and I think that the motion was made that they were doing business as one or the other, which is not accurate.
With that clarification of the and, not or,
Second.
Any additional discussion?
I think this is unfortunate. I think that when people come to the United States, they want to pursue the American dream, that they want to get businesses operating, they want to get businesses going, that, you know, I think the state does a great job of putting all laws online, making them accessible for people to read and know what the laws are. But sometimes I think even your friends can cause serious harm. And I think from what I heard today, it sounds that way. So I think this is an unfortunate situation. I don't reserve any prejudice towards Mr. D'Souza in this process.
All right, any additional discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to our next appointment, which is a meeting with auditors Powell and Sullivan from Markham Accountants and Advisors regarding fiscal year 2023 audit. Thank you for staying so late.
Thank you for having me tonight. I'd just like to start off by thanking the town manager, the current and the former finance director, treasurer collector, school department, and the rest of the finance team for all the cooperation and assistance that we received during the course of the audit. Everybody was really great about getting us the information that we need and answering our questions and all of that. The audit went very smoothly from our standpoint. And I'd like to express special thanks to the former finance director who came back in a consulting capacity to make sure that the books were closed and that they were ready for audit and that all of the information that was needed to complete the audit was available. And you know, there was a period where that position was vacant, and so that was really key to be able to have that resource available to do that work. So we really appreciated it, and if that wasn't the case, I don't think the audit would have went as smooth as it did, but it has historically gone smooth. The books have historically been in very good shape. So with that out of the way, I'll just go through a couple of required communications with you, and then I'll move on and give you some financial highlights, and I'll just try to make it brief and give you kind of a high-level overview. But important to know there were no deficiencies in internal control. We didn't have any new management letter comments that were included in the management letter, and the comments that were in there were resolved. There was a comment about writing off old ambulance receivables, and there was a comment about completing a fraud risk assessment, which we think is really important, identifying the areas where there's risk, identifying controls that are in place to mitigate the risks, and so you had an outside consultant come in and do that work, which is great. As far as the required communications, as the auditors, we're responsible for planning and performing the audit to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Management is also responsible for the selection and use of appropriate accounting policies, and you can find the significant accounting policies in Note 1 to the footnotes of the financial statements. There were no new accounting policies adopted during the year, and the application of existing policies did not change. Accounting estimates are an integral part with the preparation of the financial statements, and they're based on management's knowledge and experience about past and current events, and they're also based on assumptions about future events. The most significant assumptions in the financial statements relate to the net pension liability, the net OPEB liability, compensated absences, and depreciation on fixed assets. We reviewed the underlying factors and evaluated them, and we found them to be reasonable in relation to the financial statements as a whole. As far as difficulties encountered in performing the audit, I'm happy to report that we had no difficulties when dealing with management while performing the audit. Audit adjustments are defined as a proposed correction of the financial statement that in our opinion would not have been detected except through our auditing procedures. And I'm happy to report that we did not have to propose any such adjustments. And the last one, disagreements with management. Our standards define a disagreement with management as a matter whether or not resolved to our satisfaction that concerns financial accounting, reporting, or auditing matters that are significant to the financial statements. And I'm happy to report that no such disagreements with management occurred during the course of the audit. Overall results of the audit, we were able to issue an unmodified opinion. That's the best you can get. It's a clean opinion. It means your financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Reporting deadlines were met. The information that we received was accurate. And we received timely responses to all of our inquiries, which we appreciate. And there were no internal control deficiencies that we identified as part of our audit. Also important to note is that some of the things that we consider to be like significant risk areas in the audit are cash. The reconciliation of cash is one of the most important internal controls, and so we always look very closely at cash and the reconciliations. And historically, cash has been reconciled and it's been complete and accurate, and that was the same for 2023, so that was great to see, especially with the change in the finance director / town accountant position. Same thing with receivables. They were all reconciled, no issues there. So those are some of the main internal controls that we look for. Also, you know, the approval of the warrants, the approval of the payroll, no issues with any of that stuff. From a highlight standpoint, general fund balance totaled $9.5 million. Of that, $60,000 was restricted for debt service. That's a balance that relates to a premium on some MSBA debt, and that's going to be fully amortized in the next year or so. So that's will no longer be on the books. Another $324,000 of fund balance was assigned, and that relates to encumbrances that were carried over to the next year for things that had a valid commitment at the end of the year that allows them to be carried forward. You also had another $1.2 million that was assigned for subsequent years' expenditures, and that's just free cash that's devoted to fund the next year's budget. And so that was for the FY24 budget. And all of that leaves you with $7.9 million of unassigned fund balance. That is an important number that the rating agencies look at. It was almost exactly the same as the prior year. The prior year was $8 million. It's about 17% of your budget. And it also includes your stabilization funds. General stabilization fund totaled $2.7 million. Prior year was $2.6, so stayed very consistent. Zoning stabilization, $236,000, also very consistent with the prior year. Vehicle stabilization totaled $1.9 million, went up by about another $400,000, so you put some more money in that stabilization fund. And last is the health insurance stabilization fund, which had a balance of $381,000. Real estate and personal property tax collections continue to be strong at about 95% of your commitment. Budgetary results, overall you had a $1.8 million decrease from your budgetary operations, and that's mainly because you used $2.2 million of free cash to fund the budget. So that is essentially budgeting for a loss. And it's not uncommon. Typically, you have a surplus in your revenues and a surplus in your expenditures that will cover that, and you'll typically end up positive, but this was a different year with all the abatements that were paid. You did also have a shortfall of $70,000 overall in your revenues. $1.5 million of that relates to the real estate and personal property tax, and again, that's due to the abatements that were paid. And that shortfall was offset by surpluses in tax liens, motor vehicle excise, intergovernmental revenues, and investment income. So at the end of the day, you did have the $1.5 million shortfall in real estate and personal property taxes, but overall you're only short $70,000 on your revenues. And then you also came in under budget on your expenditures by $589,000, and that was kind of across the board through the different functional line items. So, I mean, you had kind of an unusual thing happen with the abatements. Otherwise, you have a structurally sound budget and you have good budgetary controls in place. As far as your OPEB is concerned, you continue to put money into your OPEB trust fund, which is great. You put another $267,000 in there, excuse me. And the balance in the trust fund totaled $980,000 at the end of the year. So that's starting to build up. Net OPEB liability increased by about $2.3 million up to $53.2. And that's mainly due to a change in the discount rate. Your discount rate is kind of contingent upon what the AA municipal bond rate is doing, because you're not considered to be fully funded at this point because of the amount of funds that you've set aside in your trust. Once you're considered to be fully funded, then you'll just be using like the long-term expected rate of return on your investments. But right now, that AA municipal bond rate, 20-year rate, goes up and down every year, and so your discount rate kind of goes up and down. And there's a disclosure on page 54 of the financial statements that is kind of an interesting one to look at, because it's called a sensitivity analysis, and it basically shows you the impact of a 1% change in the discount rate. And on OPEB, a 1% discount rate can increase or decrease the liability by $7 to $9 million. So it doesn't take a lot of change in the discount rate to have a big impact on the liability. So your liability went up by 2.3, and your discount rate went down from 4.76 down to 4.56, so by about 0.2. So as you keep funding it, you still keep building up money in your trust fund, you start to earn more investment income, and it just starts compounding, and you'll see that over time it's going to start getting funded faster and faster. Net investment income for the OPEB trust was $59,000 to the good. Last year it was a $118,000 loss just because the markets were down. So that's also helping you, and hopefully we have some more years like that with the market. Your funded ratio for OPEB went from 1.27 up to 1.81, so you're making some progress there. It's going in the right direction, even with that bad year last year. So hopefully we'll continue to see that funded ratio go up. As far as the net pension liability is concerned, your employees, excluding teachers and others that qualify for the Mass Teachers Retirement System, belong to the Worcester Regional Retirement System. And the Mass Teachers Retirement System pays the liability on behalf of the teachers and anyone else that qualifies to be in it. For Worcester, that liability is funded by the town. And the net pension liability was $21.4 million at the end of the year, and that was up from $17.4 million in the prior year. And the reason for that is that the Worcester Regional Retirement System, just like all the other retirement systems across the state, for the year ended 12/31/22, had significant investment losses. There was a real downturn in the market, so that's not surprising or unexpected or anything like that. And I think you're going to see a big bounce back in 2023. The Worcester system went from 56% funded down to 48%, so we'll look for that to go back up in 23 as well. They used a 7.25% discount rate, which is the same as what they did in the prior year. Fixed assets, you purchased about $1.1 million for the governmental funds. A big portion of that is road work and then machinery and equipment. No new additions for sewer. You had $305,000 of short-term debt outstanding, and that was to fund the capital plan, and also the purchase of land. No new long-term debt during the year. You had $32.3 million of governmental long-term debt outstanding, and $3.1 million of sewer debt outstanding. One of the other reports you have there is called the Report on Federal Awards. And what that is it's a audit that's required if you expend more than $750,000 in federal funds in a given fiscal year, although that threshold's going up to $1 million for fiscal 25, which will be good for communities that are close to that threshold and may end up not needing one as a result of that. Offers a little bit of relief. You expended $2.2 million of federal funds in fiscal 23. $412,000 relates to school lunch. $798,000 was related to COVID funding or the ESSER grants with the school, and that's actually the program that we had to focus our auditing on this year because it changes from year to year. Another $561,000 for special education, and then $429,000 for other grants. As far as the audit of the ESSER program, we didn't have any findings, we didn't have any question costs, no internal control deficiencies, so again, that was a clean audit, and those are the best results you could hope for on that. And I already talked about the management letter comments, so that's really everything that I had.
All right, thank you very much for the presentation. Okay. I'd like to open it up for any questions.
First of all, thank you as always. And my first comment, as always, or has been, that kind of report, it's dry and it's numbers and everything, but it's so critical to the town, and it would be a disservice if we didn't credit the town manager for doing this, with leading up this team again, and thanking Karen Brochu for coming back until we replaced the finance director position. But for those people who wonder, wow, you know, what does the town manager do all the time? That's what the town manager does. That's what the report is. That's what we're paying largely for, is to have a clean record. I remember when that management report had 20 different deficiencies on it, or close to 20. And now we're at, after this year, we'll be at 0 with no operational deficiencies. That doesn't happen by accident. And I think the people of this town should know, and this board should know, that doesn't happen by accident. And I love that you're here every year doing the same news and getting an improved report when I didn't think it could improve. My question to you is, how many of the people of the municipalities that you audit get a clean bill like this? I mean, in a percentage, would this be in the top 1 percentile, a top 5 percentile, if you had a guesstimate?
I mean, believe it or not, there's a lot of good communities out there with a lot of good professional people that know what they're doing and take a lot of pride in their work and do a really good job. I would say that the majority are like that.
Okay.
And the ones that have problems are in the minority. I would say probably 70–80% of the ones that we do are run really well like this, but this is one of the better communities.
Right, so even among that, okay.
The finances are handled and run, and yes, all the right things were done at the end of the year to bring in the support that was needed to have things continue along and to be ready for the audit, and I understand that that's probably going to continue until there's a comfort level that everything is where it needs to be, which is great, because sometimes mistakes are made and there's a lapse and someone's not brought in and things can really get behind. And right. The cash reconciliations that I talked about and the receivable reconciliations and all those important internal controls related to processing warrants and you know, paying the bills and paying the payroll, and things can really fall apart if you don't have the right people and they don't get the right support and training, and not everybody comes in with 20 years of municipal accounting experience. And municipal accounting, if you talk to someone that's never done it before and you show them and they kind of see it, and they realize that it's kind of a different animal, and there's definitely a learning curve, and you definitely need training and you definitely need support. And I think that, you know, that seems to be the route that Lunenburg is taking, so I'm really happy to see that.
Well, and I have full confidence that our new finance director will come into that, and this is a great transition into that. But once again, I want to thank the town manager for an outstanding job in the financial area yet again, another year. And to be resilient, even with the loss of $1.5 million because of the tax debacle, is, you know, to have a budget that has that kind of resilience is pretty outstanding, I'd say.
Yep,
so thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I just want to echo the comments that Mr. Alonso made and add, you know, I know last year with $1.5 million in the abatements, not only to be able to handle that situation, an unexpected situation, but also to recover from it this year and to have such a good report. I want to thank the town manager and the whole finance team for a really good, essentially, report card.
Sure, I'll just echo the comments. You know, thank you. I think you've done a fantastic job. You know, coming from on the internal team to this is, you know, I know how hard that you have worked, and I think that this really shines. So, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so let's move on to interviews, appointments, reappointments, and resignations. Up first is ratification of the town manager's appointment of Planning Board Administrative Assistant Logan O'Connell. And I'll pass it off to the town manager for this.
So I had sent the board an email about these two appointments that I'm asking for the board to ratify tonight. The first being Logan O'Connell for the Planning Board Administrative Assistant. Logan is a recent graduate of UMass Amherst with a bachelor's degree in business administration with a focus in operations and information management. He worked on campus as a move-in coordinator and also at NeuroCare, where he started as an administrative intern. Management at NeuroCare recognizes hard work and dedication and promoted Logan to a permanent position as assistant referral coordinator. He also worked as an office assistant for UMass under the facilities manager and executive director of operations. He is also from Lunenburg, so he will be returning to start this position. His references were consistent and said that he had a technical background that allowed him to streamline processes and make the offices more efficient. His positive attitude and his desire to learn and pick up quickly were evident in the interview process. So I'd ask the board to ratify Logan as the next Planning Board Administrative Assistant.
All right, are there any questions for the town manager? Is there a motion?
I move to ratify the town manager's appointment of Logan O'Connell as the Planning Board Administrative Assistant.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, no. The ratification passes.
Thank you. The next appointment that I'm asking the board to ratify is for Jameson Snape. And Jameson has not worked in Lunenburg in prior beach seasons, but he has worked at Benjamin Hill Pool in Shirley. His duties included ensuring patrons following safety protocols, testing water chemicals, checking in seasonal members, and selling day passes. His references said that he's a great worker, one of the best they've ever worked with, and the most trusted. It was also said that he works really well with challenges and is able to work well independently.
Any questions for the town manager? Is there a motion?
I move to ratify the town manager's appointment of seasonal lifeguard Jameson Snape.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. The ratification passes. All right, next we'll move on to the town manager report.
Okay. I'll start with board and committee commission vacancies. There's one vacancy on the Architectural Preservation District Commission, 2 associate vacancies on the Open Space Committee. I'm sorry, 2 associate vacancies on the Green Communities Committee, 1 member at large vacancy on the Open Space Committee, and 5 vacancies on the Personnel Committee. Anyone interested in serving in any of these positions can find the volunteer application form on the town website, complete it, and send it to the Select Board's office. And if you have any questions on the roles and responsibilities, you can contact our office at 978-582-4130, extension 144. For current employment opportunities with the town, there's the administrative assessing assistant position for 32 hours a week, alternate building commissioner, which those hours are as needed, the assistant to the sewer business manager, which is 19 hours a week, the land use director position for 40 hours a week, network administrator, 40 hours a week, and public safety desk clerk for 40 hours a week. Information on each of those positions can be found on the website under job opportunities, which is located on the town website. Staffing updates. In order to address a need for the management, the land use departments, Building Commissioner Brian Gingras has offered to assume the managerial portion of the land use director's job until we find a permanent solution. The 2 position descriptions of the building commissioner and land use director management component have been merged into a new position description. I'll have this request for ratification at the next select board meeting. In regard to the land use director position, we recently received a couple applications. that I will be reviewing with the Assistant Town Manager. Also, our interim planner, Richard Harris, has offered to extend his services through the summer. So I've notified the Planning Board Chair of this information as well. Last week, the Assistant Town Manager and the Principal Assessor conducted interviews for the Administrative Assessing Assistant, and no decision has been made yet for that position. An update on Marshall Park, OPM, permitting work, and the skate park. Since the Park Commission provided their ratings to the owner's project manager firms that responded to the RFQ and were interviewed at the end of March, we have been working with the OPM to determine the not-to-exceed cost for the scope of work and finalize the contract. The OPM has had certain objections and language changes to our contract that have required multiple reviews by our counsel and their counsel. We came to an agreed-upon language today and will now be able to finalize the contract. The fee will be a not-to-exceed fee of $250,000 that will cover OPM services through the selection of a designer and engineer and the completion of the construction related to the park grant, which needs to be complete by June of 2025. In the meantime, the Park Commission asked to proceed with hiring a firm to do the preliminary permitting that is required for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permit needed for the $1 million Land and Water Conservation Fund grant the parks received. This will be a not-to-exceed fee of $4,000. I've worked with members of the Park Commission, the skate park, their council, town council, and our insurance company to come upon agreed upon language in the right of entry agreement regarding insurance thresholds. As not all the companies that were involved have the same thresholds of insurance and the category of work they're performing is vastly different, Town Council will be amending the agreement to reflect thresholds of insurance for each category of work. This will also be acceptable with our insurance company. At our insurance company's suggestion, we have added general liability and umbrella coverage on the skate park so that in the event of anything tragic that occurs during construction, this would be covered. This is more out of an abundance of caution as the project will be constructed on town property, but not yet town-owned. An update on the September 2023 storm damage, funding from FEMA. On Thursday, May 16th, I was notified by Governor Healy's office that FEMA approved their appeal request for a major disaster declaration for damage caused to Lunenburg and other communities by the severe storm and flooding in September of 2023. However, this was limited to individual assistance for residences and businesses. The Governor's office appeal to FEMA for public assistance was denied. The state had held $5 million in reserves from the state supplemental budget, and since federal funds will not be allocated, they will be distributed the $5 million in funds to the affected cities and towns. We were notified yesterday that we will receive $30,000. This is based on a combination of factors, including storm-related expenses, municipality size, and the amount of infrastructure-related cost. The funds will be distributed in the coming weeks. We were notified by Representative Scarsdale at the end of the House budget session that one of the earmark requests for the Milo Advanced Training Simulation System, which includes use of force, critical incident training, and de-escalation training for the police department in the amount of $33,910 was submitted as part of the House budget. So we're waiting on the final budget for any earmark updates. Repairs to the public safety building siding. The company hired through Maya to repair the siding of the public safety building completed the siding repairs recently. This was all paid through insurance due to storm damage in December.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments?
I do have one other announcement that I'll read. I submitted my letter of resignation tonight to the board in an email. And I'll read that now. Dear Select Board, I'm writing to inform the board that I will be resigning from the position of Town Manager effective August 4th, 2024. This was a very difficult decision to make, but one that I believe is the right decision for me and my family. There have been many successes and challenges over the last 7.5 years of my career in Lunenburg. I take pride in the work that has been accomplished by my team and I during this time, despite these challenges. I will save recounting these achievements for another day prior to my departure and give recognition to all the relevant staff at that time. However, I want to broadly recognize that Lunenburg has an amazing staff that we are very fortunate to have as part of our team. Their dedication and passion for overarching mission of helping others has contributed to making Lunenburg a better place to live. During my tenure in Lunenburg, I've worked under 14 different select board members. I am appreciative of the strong working relationships formed with many of the board members, and especially thankful to those that have been supportive during difficult times. It is very accurate to say that it is a thankless job, and I personally want to thank current and past board members for the work they do on behalf of our town. Lastly, I want to thank the many wonderful volunteers and residents I have met over the years. There are countless volunteers that strive to make Lunenburg a special place and residents that contribute to the fabric of this community. Over the next 2 months, I plan on finishing as many outstanding projects as time will allow and working with the board on this transition. My recommendation is the board's first action to advertise and hire an interim town manager until the process that is outlined in the town charter has completed to select the next town manager. I sincerely appreciate the opportunity and privilege of being Lunenburg's town manager for the last 7.5 years and having worked with so many talented and dedicated people.
Heather, just want to say that you were one of the first impressions of this town for me when I moved here and I attended special town meeting. Your professionalism and how dedicated you are to your job has always been evident, and I want to sincerely thank you for everything that you've done for this town. So thank you, Heather.
Thank you. I also want to comment, when I heard the news, I was truly saddened. I know how hard that you've worked. I know you don't get the credit that you deserve very often. And I think this is a big loss for the town. But I think you should be proud in the work that you have done. And I understand your personal reasons. I know there is no work-life balance in that kind of job. It's very much all work. And I want to thank you for all of the effort that you have done.
I will save my comments for another day. Obviously, I was not very happy to hear the news. I think you've been a wonderful asset, continue to be a wonderful asset for the town. And like I said, I will have further comments later.
I'll also have comments later, but I just wanted to thank you for all of your hard work for all these years.
I will also have to make comments at another point. Heather, I think the work that you've done for our community has been overwhelmingly positive. We are definitely in a better place because of the work that you've done and the team that you've led has done. I'm still processing this, but thank you for all the work. I know it's thankless. I know that it's a lot of time that's put in, and I know how much energy and effort you've given the job. A lot of sleepless nights, a lot of weekends. So thank you for the work, for the community.
All right, thank you. So let's move on to old business. Up first, we have the discussion on tax investigation report.
Yeah,
we don't have the composite report.
I still owe the board the composite, but Mr. Chair, if I may suggest, I think that tonight is a bit emotionally heavy here. I don't know how effective we're going to be at the rest of our agenda. I would encourage us to table most of what's left.
All right, so I will skip down to minutes, warrants, and action items. Minutes, I don't believe we have any.
I don't know if the rest of the board would like to discuss things that I would just encourage to see if anyone else is interested. But
all right, I'll ask the rest of the board. How are we feeling?
How are we feeling about what?
Would we like to skip some of the old and current business and close out the meeting?
Doesn't matter to me one way or another.
Okay.
You sign the warrants, so.
Yep, we will. All right. So Warrants, what do we have tonight?
People are gonna wanna get paid.
All right.
Payroll.
So we have an accounts payable warrant in the amount of $668,140. And we have is this also an accounts payable, or is this? It's a payroll. A payroll in the sum of $1,149,805.03. Are there any action items tonight? Committee reports.
I'm going to try to, it's been like pulling teeth to try to get the capital planning committee to have a meeting. I'm going to try to schedule one for Monday.
School committee. There's a meeting tomorrow, but the last meeting, I don't think I gave a report because it was May 22nd. There was a lot going on in that meeting. The BMP, or the rain detention, that was scheduled to go in front of the Lunenburg Middle School, High School, was voted down by the school committee. So they need to find a new location for that. In positive news, they have hired a finance director, Dr. Susan Gilson, who starts July 1. And Mr. Heavey gave an update on 6 projects, and actually his updates you can get them on the school website. It's very nice. He gives keeps a chronological list of all the updates. But the 6 projects he updated on were the turf field feasibility study. So they've had Collins engineers go and do some study involving a drone and mapping out elevations and everything, and they have a meeting, they did, the 29th, so I guess this is June. They'll probably discuss it at tomorrow's school committee meeting. Turkey Hill Elementary School, a number of upgrades. So one, exterior door upgrades, so they have identified an architect to design a new vestibule, and they have secured NV5 to do the security upgrades and fire alarm upgrades. And NV5 will also be doing the security upgrades at the primary school. And lastly, tomorrow ARPA is on the agenda, and I believe they'll be taking, I think, another vote on giving the ARPA money back that we gave since I got the override. I think there was a vote before the town meeting, but I think they may be voting again. And yeah, that's all for the school committee.
I have AgCom, met with AgCom. I'm a little delayed on giving this update. So the night that we had the vote for the water district, I attended the Agricultural Commission meeting. It was 4 members were in attendance, and they mostly discussed kind of the plan ahead, some challenges that they've had to date, working together, and kind of a plan ahead. My understanding is that 1 or 2 members will be resigning from the Agricultural Commission, and they recently reorganized. They have asked us for a liaison going forward.
All right, I don't have a committee report tonight. Planning board has not met. So upcoming meetings, it's listed that it's June 11th and June 18th, but I believe there's a meeting this Thursday, is that correct?
I just checked the website to confirm that, and I didn't see it there, so I sent an email out during our meeting to confirm that.
All right, so upcoming meetings next Tuesday, June 11th, and the following Tuesday, June 18th. Public comment. Are there any public comments from the town manager?
No further comments.
All right. Are there any public comments from the public?
Dave Passios, 56 Whiting Street. First of all, Heather, thank you for your service for the last 7 years. There's a time in everybody's life that it's time to make a change or move on, and I think you've identified yours. I hope as much for your needs as anything. So,
sorry.
Good luck.
He's looking, I'm saying, you intend to say, is it on Zoom?
Hello?
That was Zoom.
I'm not sure what that was. I'm up here to address what I walked into this evening. I apologize I was late, so I do need to see the number of minutes before I arrived here and see what transpired. But I'm seriously disheartened with what I saw so far, and I hope this board can pull its act together and find a common ground to work together, because this town needs you to step up and bring us through the next year. We all know we have multiple problems, and now we have a major challenge also on top of that. And the citizens of Lunenburg are going to be looking to you to help us through. So please, work out your differences or whatever it is, and I may have more comments next week after I see the previous part of the meeting, which I missed. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Passios. Are there any public comments from the board?
Zoom. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Is there anyone on Zoom? Mr. Bowen.
Mr. Nizzolo, how are you? Congratulations on your vote into the chairmanship. I just wanted to extend that. Heather, I'm sorry that you're leaving, but, you know, comments need to be made otherwise. Mr. Jeffries, I'm sorry that you're not able to sit back and just be a voting member instead of having a position that you're actually kind of falling into, which I think is more instructional from your position. I just wanted to say that thank you. Mr. Alonso, I'm sorry. Mr. Nizzolo, this is not an insult to you, but I think that Mr. Alonso's experience far outweighs your own. I hope you will take that as a liaise to be able to get, up to speed and understand a lot of things that are going on in the community. 18 years you can't put aside. It's definitely something that should be listened to. I just want to say that, boy, this has been a very emotional meeting, and I'm sorry that everybody is enduring this. But I do have some emotional stuff that I have to speak about. So let's be truthful about the audit review. The statements made by the auditor clearly shows, Ms. Town Manager and the Select Board here, that you failed to inform the auditor about the reasoning for the creation of the written turnover policy, because he did not mention that in his report. If the auditor looked at the issue behind that policy creation, which we can direct toward, obviously we know where that's directed toward, your cemetery commissioner, as being the culprit for the creation of that policy. Clear, obviously, because they happen to be the only board that had Ezekiel have to explain the responsibility of how transactions and things were handled. There was no other board that Mr. Ezekiel had to attend outside of the Finance Committee, just to let them know that he is the finance ear of the town and that there is a new policy. But why would the Cemetery Commission be the only place that Ezekiel had to give an explanation if there was not some nefarious activity? So I say no, the town was not transparent about those issues and should be informed in that reason that Ezekiel had to create that policy because of the power-hungry Cemetery Commission Chair, Nancy Fox-Yazko. And I dare all of you to tell me what I just stated was incorrect. Let's just connect the dots if we may. Even the Finance Committee gave a B+ to addressing the appointment of liaisons to the Cemetery Commission due to their use and misuse of the sale of lots funds and perpetual care money, as well as the chain of custody, deposits, and expenditures, as outlined by Ezekiel in that meeting with the Cemetery Commission. This board should look real close at the cost and care of these cemeteries. The tax money to care properly is not a viable option when they're asking for over $500,000 to do things through capital plan and other expenditures. It is not viable. I'll say that again. and you all should stop ignoring me, okay, as well as others, particularly those who had voted for me as a write-in at this election, okay, and those who have since spoken about the problems at the Cemetery Commission surrounding these two elected officials, Dave Doran and Nancy Fossiasko, who are the direct cause of the issues in the cemeteries, including the increased cost, the conditions of the cemeteries, as well as the arrogance that she has towards the people who live around them. These are issues that are plaguing our cemeteries, and it is clear that it is your cemetery elected officials who are the ones who are the instigators in the problems with your cemeteries. We can either do one of two things. We can wait or we can recall. And when you're ready to hear my proposal, of which I mentioned prior to the election, you can hear my proposal. I have it written. I'd be more than happy to present it to you. But I just need your permission to do so. I was denied because it would be not in the best interest unless I had enough people in the town, I think Mr. Jeffrey said, to support my idea. I think if you listen to Mr. Rogers at the last Cemetery Commission meeting, I think he made it quite clear that people in this town want to hear about a different proposal in a different way. And I think that the select board really needs to act on it. I'm ready to step forward, as well as there are other citizens who are ready to step forward and fix the problem where the commissioners who are present, and I'm not talking about Michael Clark. Okay, it needs to start recall. That's where it needs to start. David Doran and Nancy Fossiasko, this commission needs to be in the Conservation Commission to be handled. They're all abutting conservation areas.
Mr. Bowen, do you want to start wrapping up your comment?
Sure, there's a 75-foot abutment area of where if you're within 75 feet of a wetland, there are certain grants and certain things which the Conservation Commission holds, okay? A 501c3 is not the discussion that I have made. Nancy Fossiasko stating that she spoke with the Ethics Commission is a clear lie, and I will prove that. It is a clear lie. She did not speak with the Ethics Commission, and she knows absolutely nothing about what she's talking. But I'd be willing to come forward and make a presentation, and I'm sure that if I go up the street to my neighbor, Mr. Rogers, I could probably get him and a few of his friends together to see exactly what it is, the specifics, to be able to get these cemeteries where they need to be, where it has failed for all these years. Thank you very much for your time, folks.
All right. Are there any public comments from the board?
Just want to announce, we didn't announce it earlier, that I believe this Sunday at 8:30 is the annual Police and Fire Memorial at the Public Safety Building, commemorating and memorializing all the previous department members there. It's a very moving ceremony. And it's open to the public.
That was my comment.
Are there any other public comments?
I want to respond just to the last public commenter, because there were some inaccuracies in his statement. The audit is based on fiscal 23, not fiscal 24. The policy that you're referencing was discussed and adopted in fiscal 24. That's the revenue turnover policy, which I believe you're referring to. Wasn't named so, but as you described it. And that policy, I've repeatedly said, that was a policy that was going to be part of a series of policies from Division of Local Services that were all financial related, that they would be looking for us to adopt. So it was not made in response to anything from the Cemetery Commission. It is a very common policy for towns. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. It is 9:55 p.m. and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.